You're welcome back. This is Newsfile, it's your most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on Newsfile we put Ghana first. My guest, the Honorable Inusa Fusheni, who is former MP, Tamale Central, and former Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. We're talking lands and natural resources. Cocoa finds its way somewhere there. And then the matter of Galamsey also. But remember that he has been part of the committee that had to investigate the vote buying in the Ayawaso East. Right after him, on my left, is Dr. Randy Abbey, Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Cocobod. And I was just reminding him a while ago that the last time he was here, we're talking soccer, we're talking Black Stars. That's something that is deep in his blood. Right after him is Nana Eduna II, who is spokesperson for the Ghana National Cocoa Farmers Association and CEO of Ohene Cocoa Limited. I'm sure you may be familiar with Ohene Cocoa because they're doing a lot of great stuff that we get to enjoy. And right by him is Michael Kwesi-Edo. That name must ring a bell in your ears. It looks like it's a family that will be legislators and perhaps go beyond that. He's MP of Orikrom. Orikrom is where I lived for many years. Oh. And member Energy Committee and Deputy Ranking Member for Youth and Sports. And joining us via Zoom is Oliver Barker-Vormawo, Constitutional Rights and Policy Strategy Advisor at the Democracy Hub. You know, he's presently in the Supreme Court trying to get something that will help in the fight against, corruption in our politics, particularly, party primaries, vote buying. He is representing a group, Professor Fimpom Boateng, Nyaho Tamaklo, and one other, seeking to expand the delegate, system and make it impossible for people to buy votes so that every registered member of a political party is entitled to show up at a primary and vote. He will help us on those matters more extensively. And remember that the Galamsey tax, you'd have heard his voice in that over and again. I was at a workshop with him, and we both made presentations about the Galamsey fights. And I remember at that occasion he was being interviewed on that subject. Also on Zoom is Vera Abna Ado, Programs Officer, CDD Ghana, Elections, Rule of Law, and Anti-Corruption. So in the heat of the vote buying, CPI has been released, the Corruption Perception Index has been released, and Ghana only managed, to move up just 1 inch, 1 point. It looks like we wanted to continue to stagnate. Shall we be able to move up any further after what has happened with the vote buying situation? The NDC found themselves in a very difficult place between the rock and the high place. It looks like it, right? Okay. Isaac Kofi is head of research, Joy News. He will crunch the numbers, the data with us shortly before we go into, call it, the mundane. But let's start on this note. Let's go onto the cocoa farms, and check out what the cocoa farmers are talking about.
Yesterday, I was listening to the Cocobod CEO, and I wasn't inspired because he said they are looking for solutions.
Isn't that assurance enough? I mean, he's telling the people that they're working around the clock to find solutions for them.
If you have a crisis that started as far back as November 2025, and we are in February 2026, and you are still telling the farmers that you are looking for solutions, that's not assurance. That is not encouraging. That is a sign of leadership in crisis, a sign of a leadership without a clue as to how to deal with the situation. 4 months, and you are still looking for a solution. One would have expected that the presser would outline what the solutions are after 4 months. And so you heard some of the farmers asking, if since November, we are in February, you are now looking for solutions, when would you find the solutions before you even come and outline the solutions to them? And that's a worry. And they're about to enter the main crop season as well. And so it's a very, very worrying situation that I think that the government need to treat with all kind of agency that is required. Listen, these people have worked hard. You had the 81-year-old woman. She lives on a cocoa farm. She's worked hard. She's labored and gotten the output. All she needs is for government to pay her money so she can survive on it. And for 4 months, how is she supposed to survive? I was here as early as 5:30 a.m. and we went to other locations. And you can see clearly farms that have been brought down with galamseyers on site. And in most of their comments, you could also hear them say that, listen, the offers that are being made to us by galamseyers is tempting. And so if we would work so hard and the government would keep our cocoa beans and not give us our money, then we might as well cut down the cocoa and sell it to galamseyers. That for me is a worry. Cocoa farms outlive generations, and so it's a more sustainable economic venture than even gold mining, because most of the galamsey they mine, they leave the place, they move on. But cocoa farms, my grandfather has a cocoa farm that he inherited from his father, and today the cocoa farm is there at Infrano in the Yeswano constituency. And that's why I was advocating to them and appealing to them that no matter how bad the situation is, they should not be tempted to sell off their cocoa farms to galamseyers for the sake of the generations unborn. What I'll tell the NDC government is that the complaints are real. We have come to the cocoa farm. We have listened to the farmers, and the complaints and the lamentations they are hearing on the airwaves is real.
All right, so that's Dennis Miracle Sabuaje. He was on the cocoa farms together with some journalists, and they interacted with some of the farmers. So he appears to be summarizing the concerns that were heard from the farmers, some of whom you saw in red and sitting there. So Isaac Kufieje, help us out. The government is saying, Thomas Nyako-Ampim, the Deputy Finance Minister, says that Cocobod is going to make huge losses of about $150 million, and government is absorbing that cost. What exactly are we dealing with? Randy Abe, who is right here in the studio and will take some time to explain things to us, explains that about 50,000 tons remain with farmers without buyers due to Ghana's non-competitive farm gate price. What do the statistics say?
Well, the numbers are actually saying a lot, and unfortunately we find ourselves in this situation on Valentine's Day. You know, Valentine's Day is linked with cocoa, right? And so sweeping reforms in the cocoa sector announced by the finance minister on Friday, on Thursday, and we can all actually see what really happened. The cocoa sector is really facing some bit of a challenge, and many are calling it a crisis at the moment. Let's go through the numbers and see what really
Through
happened.
a cabinet meeting, so that's a crisis,
yeah,
true
that's a
crisis.
Well, if you are looking at 28% fall in the farm gate price of cocoa for the first time possibly in our history, or since, or maybe 1998, this is the first time we are, slashing producer price of cocoa about 28%. That is very, very significant, and maybe you might be right calling it a crisis, looking at it from that tangent. Something I want us to look at this graph.
You spoke about the percentages there. Will you speak to the actual numbers there?
Absolutely. This is where we are
talking about. Take the slide back. Take the slide back.
Yeah.
Yes, the actual numbers are there.
Well, so you can see falling from 58,000 Ghana cedis per ton to about 41,392 per ton. That's 28% drop in the producer price of cocoa. And I say first time in our history that we are doing that. We tracked the data from 2011 to actually see how far we've come in terms of cocoa, prices to the farmer. This is the price per the 64 kg bag. And if you are listening to us on radio, Joy 99.7 FM, what we are talking about is how, prices have increased over the years. And for the first time, cocoa prices are falling. And you can see that between 2023 and 2025 were the years that cocoa prices really, really went high. What can we attribute to this? Most of the years, cocoa prices weren't as high as they were, global prices weren't as high as they were in 2024, right? But because of the exchange rate situation around that time, it gave us that breathing space to be possibly increasing cocoa price, because you can see the actual distribution, the uniform distribution of cocoa price per the 64 kg bag, it hasn't really deviated between 2011 and 2021 until we saw our crisis that saw the cedi depreciate. That is when we are seeing outliers from 2023 and 2025, because the exchange rate was so high to the extent that small dollars was going to give you a number of cedis, and I mean it's very, very significant, and that gave us that breathing space to increase prices. But now we are facing the reality of the true strength of the cedi, and we are pricing, our cocoa at, let's say, about 10 cedis, 25 pesos per dollar. Currently, I think there's been review.
Okay.
But that's really giving us that drop we are seeing there, making it difficult for Cocobod to actually go up with this trajectory we are seeing to maybe about 4,000 or the 6,000 Ghana cedis they promised per bag. It's simply one of the big factors is the exchange rate situation. How did we come about in terms of this problem? We understand that before this season began, Cocobod was looking at a world price of $7,267, right? And we set our farm gate price as $5,272. And we said that, well, we are giving farmers 70% of the FOB, means that if you sell 1 ton, a farmer was actually supposed to enjoy some 5,086. What we are learning is that when we did our checks 2 weeks before Cocobod set this the futures price or the FOB price of 7,200, what we are realizing is that 2 weeks, the average price 2 weeks before was around $7,500.
Okay.
And Cocobod decided to set the FOB price at 7,200 using an exchange rate of, 10.25, Ghana cedis to the dollar. And that made it impossible for the farmer to actually maybe see the 6,000 that was promised. But what we have seen is that the price has actually fallen below the FOB that we set.
That's right.
And the intelligence we are gathering is that for Cocobod to break even, they were looking at a price of, let's say, about 6,400. Now, that price is way below where we are at the moment, making it very, very difficult for Cocobod to possibly step in with some sort of shortfall, or for the government to come in with some form of intervention.
Right.
That is difficult. How did the market actually come to this conclusion in terms of the prices dropping? You can see the distribution of cocoa production from Ghana, Ivory Coast, and Ecuador. Cote d'Ivoire definitely on top of the two countries, producing on average about 1.8 million metric tons every year. Ghana is still doing around 650,000 metric tons. Ecuador is actually marching up Ghana with some 570,000 metric tons. And all of this is feeding into the world market. Remember, a year before, we had promised to produce about over 800,000 metric tons, and we're only able to produce about 450.
Okay.
And so to promise the market, or to tell the market that you are going to produce 650,000 metric tons this current season, Ecuador coming on board with a lot of cocoa beans. Nigeria, on the other hand, is also increasing their production. Cameroon is increasing. China is coming on board. The markets picked that signal that supply was going to be abundant on the market, and prices began to fall. And did we do forward sales? Randy Abe will answer that question shortly for us. But this is the situation of Cocobod in terms of their profitability. Cocobod's situation, their losses situation didn't start this year. It's been like that, and we've tracked from 2012 to about 2024. And within this period, it is only about 3 years that Cocobod was able to record a profit. And something you can see where 2012 a loss, 2013 a loss, and we are talking about even a loss of 4.1 billion Ghana cedis in 2022.
In 13 years.
In 13 years.
Cocobod made profit only in three of those years.
That is the picture for you. And in fact, this year, there was a projection that Cocobod could make a profit. Looking at what they told the IMF in the IMF program or the review, we have checked that data. Cocobod was on course to make a profit, but because of the fall in the global price, now we are asking ourselves, are they still in pole position to actually make a profit? Randy Abe will answer that for us. And let's look at Cocobod's problem. This is what they told the IMF, right? They were asked a very simple question. What do you think are the sources of your problem? Cocobod spoke about 3 things, which I want us to talk about. They say the direct cost, producer price, crop protection, and soil fertility costs. They also spoke about administrative costs, where that is coming from. It's coming from the exchange rate losses. That is Cocobod's biggest headache. If you are looking at our IMF program, a number of SOEs were listed to be, for our eyes to be on. Cocobod was number one. ECG came on that phrase. One thing we know is that when our exchange rate is performing really well, it's an advantage for ECG. But if it's performing badly, if it's performing really well, it's an advantage for ECG. But if it's on the other side where depreciation is all over the place, that is usually an advantage for Cocobod because they sell less, cocoa, they're able to get more because the exchange rate is very high. This year, unfortunately for them, they are not finding that, in there. And I remember Randy Abe jokingly saying that he called the finance minister and told him that, Charlie, where you are dragging the exchange rate to, we may be in trouble. And he said that, and we are seeing that reflect in their finances. They also spoke about their interest cost on cocoa bills. Remember that this was a big headache for Cocobod. And when we're doing the DDP in 2023, we had to add Cocobod to it so that people who had bought cocoa bills suffered haircuts. Now we understand that with the new funding model, Cocobod is going back to the market to actually issue bonds. And remember, these were T-bills.
Right.
They were converted to bonds, 5-year bonds, to allow Cocobod to be able to turn around. That is going to be the same strategy. And we understand that even banks who bought cocoa bills suffer some level of haircut. Bank of Ghana also suffers some level of haircut. That model is going to return. But the question we're asking something is, did Cocobod read the market wrongly? If you are watching us on Facebook or if you are watching us on Joy News, what you can see is the world market price. Yeah. This has been the trajectory, if you are looking at it in 5 years. And look at it
from 2022 to 2026.
Absolutely. This is where we were when we were setting the FOB price, somewhere in August, where the price was around 7,500 on average. And then we set the FOB 2 weeks after we began to see some level of fluctuations. But many are saying that this, happening here between somewhere October and September may have deceived Cocobod because it was looking like global prices were going to peak. And many have said that maybe Cocobod read the markets wrongly. We simply do not know. Randy Abe possibly will have answers for us. Lastly, I want us to talk about this.
That was such a sharp fall.
Sharp fall. And you can see it there. And this morning when I was coming, I checked the price and you can see it there.
How did you survive this? Anyway, Randy will tell us.
Randy will tell us.
He has been speaking with the finance minister.
In fact, Cocobod currently wants to actually restructure most of the things they are doing. Right. One thing we know that this big figure you see on the smart or $3.8 billion is how much Cocobod was able to, or how much we got from our cocoa export in 2025. The key question is, how much of the cocoa we produce within this season actually brought this amount of money? Because if you are looking at the trend, the 3.8 billion we got from cocoa export is the highest since 2009. So why are we having this problem? We've had a lot from cocoa. 3.8 billion, higher than the average of 2 billion we've possibly have been having.
Do you know what is going on in my mind as I hear 3 billion? It's kind of also, but for almost a decade, we have been told by those who give us money that we're losing $3 billion each year to corruption.
Yeah.
And now that figure has gone to 5 billion each year.
Fortunately.
So 3.8 billion was a loss. Then I'm also thinking about what gold is doing for us, the magic through the gold board. In the last year, over 10 billion is what they brought to us.
Yeah.
So is cocoa really still the cash cow?
Cocoa has always been the mainstay of the economy because hitherto, until the introduction of gold board, is the only commodity you can beat your chest and say we get about 90% of whatever we sell.
Right.
Unlike gold. Then we brought in gold board and we are getting a lot from gold.
All right, but, so let's conclude this quickly and get to...
is the amount we got from our, cocoa exports. And the question is, how much of this season's cocoa actually contributed to that 3.8, and how is Cocobod finding its way around the losses? What we know is that for Cocobod to be able to return to a part of, relief, this is the raft of, announcement that the finance minister put out. They are going to issue cocoa bonds, right? How are they going to do it? First of all, they have to clean their books because they currently have a negative equity. So Bank of Ghana has decided to take some of the burden. Finance Ministry is also taking some of the burden. Cocobod itself, we understand they are also taking some of the burden because there's a whole restructuring in their turnaround strategy that they sent to the Bank of Ghana. So the new strategy is that Cocobod is going to finance purchase of cocoa using bonds.
All right.
And the key question is, these bonds are expected to be bought by individuals and banks. In a situation where prices fall, are we going to see another crisis, possibly in the banking sector, where Cocobod is unable to pay them?
The beans that we can't
will be processed locally.
Will be processed locally and streamline Cocobod's cost. It's one of the biggest things people are looking at.
Last thing,
right?
Many are asking about burden sharing. What is the government taking away? Already they are saying that they're taking a huge component of Cocobod's debt. They're also saying that the beans that we have, and which is resulting to the losses, they are taking a hit of $150 million because of the restructuring. But the big question we are all asking is Cocobod, will they be able to set another lucrative farm gate price in the next season? Because what I'm looking at, it looks like it will be difficult to set a very lucrative price in the upcoming season.
That looks like that.
We are still asking. Right. So Randy Abe will have most of the answers for us.
Right. Thank you very much, Isaac. Isaac is the man behind our research desk. So anytime you see the numbers and you see the research that we try to churn out and work with, Isaac Kofi is the man behind that, head of research at Joy News. And this is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. We're going to Randy Abe now to begin to look at what the reforms, if indeed they will result in anything positive. It looks like a very Herculean task to mount. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. So let's begin with Dr. Randy Abe. You say the situation is where we have beans, but they are not buying. The beans are too expensive. How did we get here?
Thank you very much, Samson, and a very comprehensive analysis by Isaac. Isaac should add one more slide, and I think that will tell the story fully, which will be a slide on the world market prices over the period. He did one on the producer price,
right,
and showed that. But and then explain the drop from 25 to 26. Now, if you have one which also deals with the world market price, that will also tell you that you have an unprecedented situation of the farm gate prices dropping, because there's also an unprecedented situation of the world market price also dropping sharply. And I think that will just fully tell the story.
All right, Kofi, so that's feedback for you.
Yes. Now, we are where we are because our bean is not competitive, the price of our bean, as compared to other origins. And you also have a buyer-funded model.
Our beans is more expensive.
Yes.
Comparatively.
And the gap is too wide. And it's the reason why you have a situation where there are complaints that we've given beans, they've not been bought. We have beans, they are not buying, yet there's no smuggling. Last year, you didn't have a situation of we have supplied beans, they've not been bought. We have beans, they are not buying. Yet there was massive smuggling. Almost on a daily basis, we had arrests or reports of smuggling, to the extent that we even had national security meetings on smuggling just last year, because we were paying $3,100. And if you go to places like Togo, who operate close to the price on the terminal, they were operating 6,000 and upwards. And so you had a situation where there were merchants who were actually coming onto the farms to even buy from the farmers. And the farmers didn't even need to smuggle the good themselves. These people will come.
Because they were paying us almost twice as much.
Yes. And so although last year you didn't find the situation of there's no money to buy the crop, we have given our bean, it's not been sold, we had massive smuggling. But this year, you do not have incidents of smuggling, even when you have situation of farmers saying that I gave my bean, I've not been paid. We have beans, they are not buying. And I will use the story of Volta and OT to illustrate this point. For the entire 24-25 season, Volta and OT contributed 97 tons to the 590-something thousand, almost 600,000 tons that we made for 24-25. This year, as at December, Volta and OT had contributed 2,500 tons. And you hear a lot of complaints just by close of December, about 2,500 tons. From the same area, that contributed just 97 tons. And so it is really a pricing issue. And that is why even in this situation, we needed to be careful with the decision that we took, because we also needed to have our eye on reverse smuggling. You go trying to solve a problem, and before you realize, you think that you're solving a 70,000 ton problem, only to have 400,000 tons of cocoa arrive in your country. We know what is happening everywhere around us. There are countries that have not announced a reduction, but we know what is happening on the ground.
Explain the reverse smuggling again.
Reverse smuggling simply means, first of all, for all the communities that are along the border, it's trite knowledge that they operate in two markets. So they look at which market is favorable to them. Beyond them, as I gave the story of Volta and OT to illustrate the point, you know, they look at what the conditions are. And that is why we always look at Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire pricing, because the research shows that anytime there is a gap of more than $400, the incidence of smuggling is very high. That's per ton. The incidence of smuggling is very high. And so you try to ensure that to deal with smuggling, you do not have that gap. Because when it is below that, you do not have an incentive to smuggle, especially in large quantities.
Right.
And so when you have that huge difference where you're paying $3,100 and the spot price is in excess of $6,000, $7,000, then the motivation is there. And that's why I said people will even come to the farms, give the farmers 5,000, and the farmers didn't even need to take the risk of smuggling. It was enough good business for others to decide to then do the smuggling themselves.
That's right.
And so you had massive smuggling, some even using vehicles that, you know, 4x4s, they were using hospital ambulances and all that. So for last year, every single day, we had an issue with smuggling, you know, and it is just because of the difference between what we were offering and what our neighbors were offering. This time round, you have a situation where what we are offering and the spot price has a gap of over 1,000 US dollars, or even 2,000 US dollars in some instances, and therefore there is no motivation, you know, for smuggling. But the reverse smuggling would then mean that if you continue to pay, and why we didn't have the reverse smuggling, although the amount was there, was that there was no liquidity. So even those who intend to smuggle know that Ghana is not buying. But immediately Ghana starts buying, and starts buying at that rate, there will be the motivation for those around us to then bring in a lot of the cocoa. We all know what is happening in Cote d'Ivoire. I'm sure that in your research you would have seen the farmers in Cote d'Ivoire complaining. There's an EU24 interview, Euronews 24 interview of farmers talking about their produce rotting away on their farms and their warehouses and all that. Now, in a situation where Ghana has liquidity and is buying, and the price is at that level, there will be an incentive to smuggle. So that's why I said that if you're not careful, you might think that you're solving a 70,000 ton problem, only to be confronted with a 400,000, sorry, a 400,000 or 500,000 ton problem, which is then going to mess up your loss situation completely.
Just a quick side issue. Yeah. From what you're saying, I get a revelation that where, say, Cote d'Ivoire is doing 2 million, and we are struggling to get to 1 million, even though we have done that before. You know, I remember Kufuor's regime when we got to that point, and there was celebration that greeted it. So it's not exactly the case that what we record has been what we produce, because you have to discount what may have been smuggled.
Yes. So I'll give you an example. For 23-24, Cocobod projected a crop of 800,000. At the end of the season, Cocobod had done 438,000. And that's the situation that led to the rollover of about 333,000 tons. Now, something significant happened. And that was the year that the syndicated loan collapsed after 32 years. Now, for the first time, the season opened in September. The first tranche of the syndicated loan hit Cocobod's account on the 22nd of December. According to Liquidity at their press conference, the first time they received money was January 26 of 2024. So what it meant was that the season opened in September, and if I just give a little explanation so that people then appreciate this. Under the syndicated loan regime, Cocobod would then make a projection of its crop output, and then also a projection of the price. And then on the basis of that, Cocobod would then give a mandate to the cocoa marketing company to go and sign contracts on the basis of how much Cocobod expects to spend in purchasing the crop. So let's say Cocobod makes a projection of 600,000 with a price of 5,000. And so they ask CMC to say, go and sign contracts of 500,000. 500,000, not less than $5,000. So they go sign this. And Cocobod needs, let's say, $1.8 billion. And the financing cost of maybe some 120 million. So CMC will sign these contracts, 500,000 tons with international buyers at not less than $5,000. These contracts are what Cocobod sends to the consortium of banks, the syndicated banks, as collateral. So this is raw beans contract. So Cocobod commits to supply 500,000 of its expected 600,000 output, raw beans, to these suppliers, who then have signed a contract to buy the beans at this price. Now, once the banks receive this, they then, on the basis of that, look, we have a 2.5 billion CD collateral, dollar collateral. Cocobod needs 1.8 billion plus financing cost is less, 1.92 billion. So we'll release the money on agreed tranches. This money comes to the central bank. The central bank gives Cocobod the CD equivalent, Bank of Ghana rate. Then out of this money received by Cocobod then gives what is called seed fund to the license buying companies. So the license buying companies then use these seed funds to buy the cocoa from the farmers on behalf of Cocobod. Now you had a situation where in 23-24, the season opened in September. September, October, November, December, the LBCs had not been given any seed fund to buy the bean. Now, this is at the peak of your main crop season. What do you think would have happened during this period? For all this period. So some of the LBCs had to by themselves go and take loans to try and go on the market and all that. But the seed fund that usually is given to this LBCs maybe by mid-September or third week in September to go and buy the crop on behalf of Cocobod was not available. In a situation like that, you shouldn't be surprised if there is smuggling.
There's the suggestion that you could have preempted something sometime in November in 2025.
All right, so you see, when you discuss this issue without factoring in the funding model, then you miss it. You see, I've heard people speak about forward sale and all those things. Now, look, Samson, if you project to do 650,000, and by the time we go to where we were, you are done 581,000. By let's say first week in January, 581,000. That's by 82%. So where is that argument coming from? I hear people say that, oh, you do forward and you forward sell about 70% and all that. By the time that we got into this situation, Cocobod had taken over 581. 530,000 of that had contracts. 530,000 of that had contracts. So the 5,040 that was promised the farmers, you had a commitment on 581,000 of your projected 650,000. So where's the argument coming from? That they were only doing spot pricing. In fact, some of the 25-26 were forward sold in 24-25. Some of them were forward sold in 24-25 during the 24-25 season. So the issue about they should have done forward sale and they changed it and all that. Now, mind you see, under the syndicated loan regime, you are bound to find contracts for the sale of the raw bean to collateralize the loan. So you sign these contracts and present these contracts to the consortium of banks as collateral for the advancement of the syndicated loan. Now, when this collapsed and we had this buyer's model, it is now the buyers who place the orders. And then it's the buyers who provide part of the funding for the purchase of the bean. So you are only liquid, or you only have liquidity when the buyers advance money to you. Under the syndicated loan scheme, you've done the thing, you have agreed on intervals for the money to come. Those monies come in, you have control over your money. You take the money from the Bank of Ghana, you give seed fund for the LBCs to go and buy on your behalf. Under this model, which started from 24-25, it is the buyers who then make an order. I want 50,000 tons. And they make a declaration. Maybe it says that, I would want it in November. And then they will give you 80%. It was 60% in 24-25 because the farmer share was about 63.9. When the farmer share moved to 70 on the basis of the NDC's manifesto, then it had to move to 80 because the 60 will not be enough to even buy the bean from the farmer. So it is the buyers who then provide the liquidity for you at every point in time that they make an order for you to be able to give that to the LBCs to go and buy. So at the point when the buyers decided that, look, your beans were too expensive for them, and they had many other origins to buy from, you have a liquidity problem. But I'm saying that at this point, we are done about 82% of our projection. But once the buyers move from your market and they are not purchasing, you do not have the liquidity because they are funding the purchase of the crop. And that is the situation that we found ourselves in.
Okay. So, Michael, I want to get you briefly on this. I've heard the minority suggest that this was avoidable. This is self-inflicted. Listening to Dr. Abe now, it sounds like it was unavoidable. And in fact, they have done the very best that could be done.
Samson, good morning to your listeners, your viewers. Is good Dr. Randy Abe is here. And I think quite clearly Isaac explained the issues very well. He's done very well, except to say that between 2020 to 2023, one of the reasons why the price was going up was not just because of the FX factor, but also the LID, the living income differential of $400 that came to add to the pricing. So that was also a factor that increased the price between 2020 to 2023. Now to the main question that you ask, that the situation is something that they couldn't have done anything about. I think it is a self-inflicted problem because right here, Dr. Randy Abe is saying that even the 26 cocoa, part of it had already been sold. So it means that in 2024, the previous administration has sold forward the 24-25 cocoa and sold part of 25-26 cocoa. That is why he's trying to say. No, you just said part of the 26 cocoa had already been sold So, and you mentioned
25, yes.
And you mentioned that you have
so
sold
not 26. 82%. He said 24-25.
He said, so I wrote it down. Yeah, he said part of 26. then unless you change.
No, I mean 25, 26.
Yes,
That's what I mean.
So 25,
So
26.
part of 25, 26
Yes, that's what I'm
had already been
In
forward
24,
sold.
25.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay.
So that's
I get that.
what I'm
Please
saying.
proceed. Yeah.
So you are saying that the previous administration has sold part of 25, 26 cocoa.
No. That's not what I mean. 24, 25 started in September.
Yes.
And then in August.
They have sold it. And you are saying part of 25, 26 had already been sold.
Yes, not by the previous administration. That's not what I mean. The previous administration was in office September, October, November, December. Yes, but the season continued January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August.
Okay.
The 82% that you are saying has been sold.
Yes.
Which period was it sold?
From, let's say, about March of 2025 to August of 2025.
Is it the same buyers that bought the cocoa?
When is it?
The same buyers you sell to?
Yes.
So how come the buyers are saying they won't buy now? And how come you couldn't sell, if you were able to sell 82%, have you delivered all the 82%? No.
Yes.
You've delivered all the 82%? No. So how come you couldn't sell the rest? That is why we are saying it's a trading option gone wrong.
I am
because,
surprised.
No, don't be surprised. You have the opportunity to sell for
You
it.
should have an answer to that question. I think it's a legitimate question he's asking you.
No,
because from my layman's understanding,
yes,
if there is a forward sale,
Exactly.
yes,
and you say you have delivered,
yes,
then we shouldn't have a problem.
You shouldn't have a problem.
No.
Based on what did you announce, achieve that FOB price that you announced last year? It is based on the forward sales you made. That gives you clarity of the next season. Then you come and announce, and when you are calculating your forward sales, you take the main crop aggregate multiplied by the price, the prevailing price. You take, if you have, let's say, some rollovers, you take the rollovers aggregate multiplied by prevailing price, then your projected light crop aggregate by the prevailing price, you add all these to achieve your FOB price, which you came to announce in October last year. Last year, you announced price in August, didn't you?
yes.
Why did you announce it in August?
We opened the season in August.
You opened the season earlier,
Yes.
because you were supposed to open it in October. But the reason you had to open it earlier is because earlier in the year, you had come out to announce that in October, you'll be increasing price, and because of that, the president also went out to say they will increase price in October. So the cocoa that they were supposed to bring, they were not bringing, so you had to open price the season in August so that you receive your beans. And that is why we are saying some of the comments you made outside affected Cocobod. Because you come out in as far back as March to announce that I will increase pricing at the end of the season, everybody will hoard. LBCs will hoard, farmers will hoard, nobody will bring the cocoa to you. So you were forced to come and announce price in August. And that just to make sure you get the beans and ship it to the place. You announced price earlier in August at a price of 3,625 per bag, using your forward sales that you've made. And Ghanaian farmers are given a guaranteed price. So once you give them a price of 3,625, it's supposed to cover the entire season. It means you have done your calculation to see how much you sold and how much you are getting. If the previous government in 2024 had been able to sell the whole season cocoa, so that you come in and you do not have excess cocoa to give you problem to the extent that it's even eating into 2025, 2026. You come in, what you have to sell is 2025, 2026 cocoa. It gives you comfort. The same way you had the option of selling your cocoa for 2026.
So from where you sit, where is the problem? What is the problem?
The problem is that Dr. Randiabi last year, instead of selling 2025, 2026 cocoa all on forward, when they knew prices were very high, because mind you, I saw the projection that Isaac did. This is the first time in many years that prices have reached where they are. And the reason why prices were where they are is because there was a shortage in beans.
So you speak to the specifics. When you talk about prices at what point, and
prices move
speak about them directly.
Prices move from $2,000 to $3,000.
Right.
Prices have stayed at between $2,000 to $3,000 for a very long time.
Right.
Then from 2023, it starts to rise. It rises steadily. By the time middle of 2023 to 2024, it shoots up. By the time we get to 2024, we are around $10,000.
Right.
To the extent that even when we entered 2025, there was a particular day it went all the way to $13,000. Then it comes down between 12,000, comes to 8,000, 10,000. You know, cocoa is volatile. Yeah. Every day in the prices they record. So today, yes, they are projecting it. Today you go to the market, it's 8,000. Tomorrow it can go to 8,500 or 9,000. It can come down the following day. So this is the first time you've had that in many years.
So from 10, it plummets.
So you know that it's not going to stay there forever because production has started to increase. Already, you have come to announce that you are expecting 650,000 metric tons. So the buyers know that previously in 2023, you had done 432,000 metric tons. So if you are going to 630,000 metric tons, there's going to be a glut. Ivory Coast was doing about 1.8 million tons. Definitely, Ivory Coast production will go up a little. So every buyer, knowing that there is going to be a glut in the market, will push price down. This is speculation in trading. It will start to push price down. So any trader knew that the prices were not going to stay there forever. With that clarity, it is obvious, and it's the best decision to take is to sell your cocoa forward and take advantage of the position then.
Okay.
So once you've taken advantage
of the position, at what point?
From last year, they should have sold forward even their light crop beans. Right. So that you know that within this season.
At the time when it was 10,000.
Yes, 8,000 to 10,000.
8,000 to 10,000. And now we
last year,
having to
it had not dropped.
At 3,000.
Exactly. So, and you knew that you have sold about 82% of your beans. You have light crop beans ahead of you. From this period going, it's light crop beans that will be coming.
So the problem is not selling.
It's not selling. That's why you have beans left, about 50,000 or 70,000 beans left. And you are claiming the buyer is saying your cocoa is expensive. No, it is not the buyer claiming your cocoa is expensive. Market has crashed. And you have stock. And you can't sell.
Your suspicion is that we're trying to hoard.
We're trying to hold on in expectation of higher price.
Exactly. So it's a loss.
It's a loss.
It's a business
wrong calculation that has been done. It's a wrong calculation that has been done.
Okay, so hold on. Randy will explain that. Because he's projecting the minority in Parliament's position, let's hear what the minority led by Kojo Nkrumah had to say, including asking for the head of Randy Abbey.
This action to announce a 28% reduction in the price amounts to a haircut of about 28% on close to 1 million Ghanaian cocoa farmers. Already when you go into the cocoa growing areas, I was in my areas just a few days ago. A lot of young people are already not going into cocoa because they say the older folk who went into it, they don't see a transformation in their lives. It's left with the old, elderly, poor on the farms. When you do this, what is going to happen in subsequent years is that even those ones will not be going into the cocoa production. If they won't sell their cocoa farms to Galamsey operators, God knows what they will do. All of this has come about because of the reset that Cocobod did. And that is why, respectfully, we ask the president to relieve the Cocobod CEO of his responsibilities at this point in time. Number two, we are asking the government that in previous times when cocoa prices fell and the government absorbed the shock and protected the cocoa farmer, the NDC government should absorb the cost of what they have done and protect the cocoa farmer and restore at least the 3,625 that they promised. This 2,800 or so that they are promising is totally unacceptable. Already we are receiving messages from cocoa farmers who say that if this is what is going to happen, they are going to demonstrate in a number of these. And if they do, we in this caucus, we will join them on the streets to do this demonstration. We thank.
I'm even surprised that the IMF is sleeping over this. Because we developed this strategy in consultation with the IMF as a requirement, one of the requirements for implementing the IMF program. I'm really surprised that the IMF has gone to sleep on this. And this government is recklessly managing the cocoa sector.
How do you respond to this? Whilst it looks like a pure commercial matter, this country, we must look at things from the political lens.
Start off with a question to Michael. From 2017 to 2024, did you forward sell 100% of the projected output?
100%.
Yes.
No, definitely you do about 70 or 30 because that time, for a trader, that time you knew prices were low. That's why I said, when you know that prices are very high, every trader will look at the market situation at every point
Don't look at me anymore because he asked me. So go ahead.
Every point in time, depending on the market circumstance, that is how you trade. Trading is not, let's say, is not something that is fixed. So let's say your period last year, you've seen the market, you've seen that production is going up. Didn't you know production was going up? You knew your production was going up. Ivory Coast production is going up. So any trader will know that within the next few months, there's a likelihood that the market will respond and prices may go down. So for me as a trader, if I've seen that and I know the price is high, I will forward sell most of my contracts. And the same way, when the market has a lot of beans, and you know that prices are around 3,000, 2,000, and you are not assured that it will go up, you try to take advantage of spot positions too. So you sell more forward to get clarity and take advantage of spot position. Okay. So it depends on the period.
If he asks you a question, be quick with the answer so you can continue.
So in 2023-24, your forward sale that you did, what was the implication for 24-25?
2023-24, the market was now rising. The market was now becoming bullish. So every point, every time they were selling. So if you look at the prices that they achieved, every day and specific prices that they got, because they can't sit and wait. So they were selling all the way.
The point I'm making is that 23-24, you made forward sales.
Yes.
And you could not deliver.
Because the prices were then going up.
Please. You made forward sales. And you could not deliver. You projected an output of 800,000. And you forward sold 786,000.
Yes.
Now, that decision.
And delivered.
You couldn't deliver 333,000.
Yes, because that was a force majeure. You had El Nino effect. You are sitting at Cocobod today. You knew that 2023-24, there was a weather condition globally that affected Ghana and Ivory Coast. Let Isaac show you his projection. How did Ivory Coast cocoa reduce from 2.5 million to 1.8 million? The same thing that happened to Ivory Coast happened to Ghana.
So you see, Samson. Okay, now please allow him. So, Samson, this is a party that forward sold. They made an output, they projected an output of 800,000 and forward sold 786,000. Now, at the time that you announce prices, you forward sell. It is just about when the season is about starting. So, are you suggesting that the El Nino occurred when the crops were on the trees and they were being harvested? That's one. Two, that decision of forward selling almost 100%. You projected 800,000. You forward sold 786,000. You could not deliver 333,000. You had forward sold this at 2,600. And you could not deliver 333. So the following year, when the prices shot up to the 12,000, 11,000, 10,000, you could only declare an FOB of 4,800 with the farmer getting a share of 3-1. And that was as a result of this your forward sale strategy. You could not deliver 333,000.
That was about a big loss.
45%.
Iran, you're not even putting it well.
45%.
A contract had come into existence for the 767 tons. 86 tons that you sold. So if you couldn't deliver 333 tons, meant that the following year, that contract, you were bound. You were bound by that contract. And so you were forward selling.
Yes.
Yeah.
In that year.
Yeah.
So your action was not limited to the year that you took the decision.
Yes.
It cascaded into the next year because you couldn't. And
but
then
it's a hedging.
So it means that even if cocoa prices were 10,000 in the second year,
you still give it
at the price that you locked in.
You could have done forward sales to prices of 4, and you.
I don't know.
It's a position.
So I'm saying that.
I don't know.
You, the proponents of this, this is what you bequeath the cocoa farmer, such that in the history of cocoa, no farmer can beat his chest. My brother here cannot beat his chest and say that At a point in time in history, when cocoa prices reached 12,000 and 10,000, I made so much money from cocoa that I bought this, I expanded my farm, or I did this. As a result of that, your forward sales strategy, where you forward sold, you projected 800,000, you forward sold 786,000 at an average of $2,600, you could not deliver about 45% in crop forecast. How can you have a deviation of 45%? You couldn't deliver that. And so in the ensuing year, we had to use this high-priced cocoa to service these 333,000 tons. And that obviously brought the weighted average down completely. So at a time when you had the then opposition people saying that the farmer should get 6,000 or 7,000 and all that, if you, Samson, you see the world price, like Isaac is projected, and you have the lowest of the averages at $9,000, and you hear that the farmer is being given 3,100, would that not represent about 30%?
That's right.
Would you not raise alarm?
Certainly.
But nobody knew that there was an elephant in the room called Rollover, which had been sold at 2,600. And that the effect was 333,000 tons, about 45% of the crop forecast. So that then affected the 24-25 pricing. And that is how come no farmer can say that once upon a time when the prices of cocoa were 12,000, 11,000, farmer this, I got X or I got Y as a result of that forward decision. And I'm saying that you also have, you cannot also separate the funding model from how you sell. Sometimes we make it look as if you can go and force a buyer to buy your crop. You can force the buyer. The same way that you're analyzing, the buyer is also analyzing.
All right.
All of those buyers have research and all that. They can also project, they can also see.
I want us to, you guys relax a bit for me. Let me get to the farmer and return to you guys again on the proposed solutions, including getting into the bond market. So let's hear you first, Inusa.
I think that this issue is not a 2025 issue.
Am I right to think that from what Michael is suggesting, it is not really the case that Randy's regime, they were cautious because of the previous loss from the forward sale. So they were cautious not to do a similar thing.
Let me just, because of what you said, let me just chip in something. That thing they did was under the syndication.
Syndication.
Where you had to forward sell in accordance with what you expect to raise to buy the crop. So you push an output of 800,000, you go and sign contracts for 786,000 because of what you expect to raise. As to whether your projection was founded or not founded, we can't tell. Do you understand what I'm saying? But for the first time in the history of Cocobod, you have a crop forecast that goes off by 45%. Okay. And that was under the syndication, the last time that a syndication loan was raised and it collapsed.
All right. Okay, thank you.
So as somebody who studies the market and also look at the activities of Cocobod over the years, this problem of Cocobod that has manifested did not start today. You remember the 2024 campaign? I saw you in that meeting where the vice president was asked a pointed question whether Cocobod was crashing.
He refused to answer.
He refused to answer.
Yeah.
It's not a new problem.
A journalist had asked the question that Cocobod was collapsing. And he said he didn't know where he was coming with his facts. He didn't know about it. He won't answer it.
Yeah. But now, position then.
Okay.
It was the what?
It was a good position because for any company.
The vice president saying that it's a good
position. But now looking back, it sounds to me
not answering
that people had
picked the signals
of a situation at the time.
Possibly
people had picked the signals.
He didn't have the figures then.
All right.
And for any institution, you look at both revenues and everything before you determine whether it's going.
Okay. Let's hear.
So what I'm saying is that people had picked the signals.
But when you decide to, when your cocoa bills in 2023, it becomes part of DDEP, and you decide to reschedule that debt, what is the signal you're sending out? The signal is that you're broke. When Ghana declared DDEP, what happened to Ghana?
Then it's not only that.
What happened to Ghana?
You must also look at, so first of all, we must all understand that people picked credible signals that Cocobod was collapsing in 2024. Credible. And the projection they just made, you can see 2023, 2024, what happened. You can see clearly that Cocobod raked up heavy debt in those years. You can see it. Two, you also have to understand that because of what happened, the failure, refusal, or neglect to deliver by contract affected the confidence of buyers. So they were not now ready to pre-finance the buying of the cocoa beans. That was why a new funding model came into being. That shook the market and destroyed the confidence of those who had provided stable capital. Okay? Now, you combine it with and for 8 years, I was in Parliament for 4 of those 8 years of the MPP. The administrative costs of Cocobod continuously kept rising. Anytime they took the syndicated loan, they spent a heavy part of the syndicated loan on themselves, on administration. We raised red flags that this model was not sustainable. You go and look at the cocoa rows, the amount of money in that period that was spent on cocoa rows. Then you ask yourself, what model was that? How can you rake in that debt and still think that an institution, a trading institution like Cocobod, could survive? Now, if you enter into a delivery contract, fail to deliver the quantities, the obligation under that contract, you're not excused of that obligation. You're not excused. So you had forward sold. And so when you fail, and there's a rollover, you are still obligated to supply at the amount. Because the failure to supply was not because the buyers refused to take, but because you couldn't supply.
That's right.
Okay? Now, and you know that we would have stood to benefit if in the succeeding years, cocoa prices dropped to a level below 2,600. We would have benefited. So we would lose if cocoa prices went beyond. I mean, if cocoa prices had fallen beyond, and
they did, they went up. So
if cocoa prices had fallen below, I'm sure today Randy will not be sitting here claiming that. They will say that it is because they were visionary. They saw it from afar and that cocoa prices will plummet, and so they sold at. So you must be prepared to say that, look, that action of failure to deliver, not failure to enter, into a contract, but failure to deliver the excess 333 tons is probably responsible for our present situation. You must understand that. Because if that had been delivered, now we will hold the present management of Cocobod responsible for not entering into a forward contract in a manner that brought revenue. So that is a prudential decision they took, the reduction of the price of cocoa to reflect the situation at Cocobod and also world market prices. You know, because it's a prudential decision.
But Michael raises a point, or the minority raised a point, Kojo Oppong Nkrumah championing that, that there are times when the windfall, the cocoa farmer doesn't get to benefit from the windfall. So in a situation where, because of your marketing and hedging skills, you may have missed a plot, the prices have gone down, don't let the cocoa farmer suffer. He says, you take that cushion. Government should give them that cushion.
No, that would be a reckless decision. The cocoa farmer is also in a business. Okay? He understands the up and downs of the cocoa trade. He understands it. Now,
he's in a business where he doesn't have a say. Right? He doesn't have a say.
No, what I'm saying is that
you understand.
Anybody who is a producer will say that, well, me, I don't care. You have to give me the benefit. But I'm saying that you must understand the remits of the business. that look, if the prices were favorable in other jurisdictions, you would have seen them trying to smuggle the crop.
But there's no free market. It's like your gold ball situation. Whoever produces gold, this is the only place you can sell it, and at this price.
Yes.
So they don't have the option. They don't determine where in the market we go. You are the one controlling everything and determining how it ought to be sold. So that's why you should cushion them when at times you are benefited and at certain times it has gone bad.
If you will, let me just provide some information.
Quickly.
At least what I know is that from when we assumed office, the price that was set in September 2024 used 16 cedis as the exchange rate. 16 cedis is what was used as the exchange rate. We all know what happened from April, May of 2025 with the exchange rate. The exchange rate went down to about 10.2. But the 16 cedis was maintained as a price to the farmer. So although the cocoa were selling at that point, Bank of Ghana was giving us 10.2, 10.3, 10.4. The 16 cedis, which is what was used to determine the price in September 2024, is still what government and Cocobod continued paying the cocoa farmer. Now, even moving to 25-26, you realize that the first time we set the price in August, we used 10.25 as the exchange rate. And we later reviewed it in October when the Ivorian price was announced. We reviewed it and used an exchange rate for 11.5. That exchange rate stayed there for only 2 weeks and came down into the 10s until today.
Okay.
Now, whilst all of that, the 11.5 stayed for only 2 weeks, we were still paying the farmer on the basis of the 11.5 to an extent that the farmer's share of 70% rose to 75% and sometimes 76%.
Well, we'll come back to that question as to, the commercial prudence in that kind of arrangement, where you are not making profit. If that's the case, you are not making profit, and yet you are making sure that somebody doesn't suffer, is gaining. Yes, Nana, I've been meaning to ask you to say your name in full by yourself. Yes, go ahead, please. How do you pronounce it?
I don't know. My name is Nane Duna.
Nana Eduna.
Duna the second. Eduna means really 10. Edu.
Nah.
So the son of the 10th. You see, Edu is 10. Okay. The son of the 10th.
So you see, and from where you sit, what is happening?
From where I sit, I'm actually sitting on the left side of the chief. And traditionally, as Achamini, I'm supposed to be sitting here. So I'm sitting on the left side of the chief. Good day and good day to your listeners. I think that, again, being a simple farmer, all this big English about all these figures, it means very little to we on the ground. So let me adopt the position of a farmer. However, I took a Cocobod scholarship, or I was lucky to get a CMB scholarship when I was going to school. So then I went a bit further to try and understand some of these things so that I can come back and explain it to my people when I hear it. Okay, all this nice language. I also went back into the history books to learn that in the 1920s and 1930s, we were dealing directly with those who bought our cocoa.
Yeah.
Okay. So historically, this intervention of somebody now sitting on our happiness is not something that we farmers actually took on us, because we used to trade. In fact, then what happened in the 1920s and 1930s was that there was a manipulation by the buyers at the time, Cadbury's and Roundtrees in particular, which also then at the same time the French and the British were teaming up to form the FCC, Federation of Cocoa Commerce, which is actually responsible for all the shipping of cocoa contracts globally. So they lock you in. Okay, so I studied some history. Then I also realized that when my ancestors were not happy with the price, they burnt the cocoa in the 1930s as a result of the resistance that they were coming up with. So I read all that. Okay. Then what did the British colonial government do at the time? Typical, divide and rule. Form a commission of inquiry. Nowell Commission came out with the findings in the 1940s. My people never signed that contract. Never. We never appended our signature to it. I'm giving you a historical account of what is happening. But they went ahead and formed the CMB, Cocoa Marketing Board, in 1947. Had nothing to do with we in our interests. It had to do with trying to find a low price for British industry, 1947. Remember also, then, the Second World War had just ended. Europe was in serious trouble. They were looking for a way of coming back. The colonies became important. They had always been important, but more so for resources. Fast forward independence, and Nkrumah smartly, okay, we've got to use this commodity to fund many things. And of course, let's even go back a bit. Look, cocoa. Achimota School, where I went to school, was funded by Cocoa, Kolebu, Hospital, cocoa money. The railways, right to Takoradi Harbour, cocoa money. You know, the foundation for this economy, cocoa. Okay. Nkrumah smartly, fast forward, 1950s, 60s after independence. Okay. Sometimes we talk about this politics about LNM and Matimiho and whatever, it's like it was a tribal. No, it was about cocoa. It was about cocoa because at the time, cocoa was such a powerful revenue, but Nkrumah also had to find a way of getting some hand in control. So he called and said, look, I'll give you people scholarships and whatever in exchange for you sacrificing some of the revenue. And Bafo Akutu at the time, he said, you know, you people, you're coming to tell us that you want to take our revenue. No, you're taking your own. So that was the genesis of it. Of course, then there was some violence and it became political, but cocoa was behind it. Okay, Nkrumah got his way, fortunately, visionary with whatever he wanted to do, but he didn't last long. Okay, thereafter, what has happened to our industry? And you can actually even look back again further at the trajectory of even production. 1896, we started with 36 kilos. By 1911, we're doing 20,000 metric tons. Look at the increase. That's where families like mine, who came from Ekropong, and we knew, or we went in the trade, we made money. We made serious money.
All right.
Okay. Of course, there was the attempted manipulation right to the early 1940s, but we still made money. Good money. When you go to the big account town,
cocoa money,
it's cocoa money. All these big compound houses in Bantama and Kufuidua and Ekropong and
famous cocoa
farms.
They are associated with those wells.
With one of the first who built a story building out of pure Udum wood, the first floor. We know what wealth is.
So let's fast
forward to now, where we have been made poor by now the board that was whatever, now sitting on us and now telling us what they will pay us. Look, at the end of the day, again, they talk about everything being free and supplied, whatever. The funding of including Cocobod salaries and whatever, it is the margin of whatever the difference is between what is sold at the landing terminal price and what is paid by the farm gate price. So we cocoa farmers are funding everything, including all this debt that has been accumulated. They will expect us to pay. So you see, when all this...
But the coordination that...
Yeah, I'm just saying... So
coordination that the authority, the board brings to what you do,
yeah,
you can't discount that.
No, we can't. But at least involve us. Communicate to us. You are going to forward whatever. Tell us. Explain to us. Let us understand. But you don't then come and ram the thing after all, frustrating or whatever, when we know how and what we used to do some time ago to make ourselves wealthy. But then you come and tell us we are poor. Then you keep our money for almost 4 months. Just a minute, can I finish? For almost 4 months. Then after that, you come and hammer us by taking, without any communication, consultation. No, that's not fair. That's not fair. You know, and you know...
When you are getting the increases, you don't complain.
No, but even to be fair and with respect to but the increases, after all, we deserve it. After all, at the end of the day, we are still funding the thing anyway. It's from our production. It is from the money it is from whatever we make. And two, so when the thing went to 12,000 and whatever, but they had locked us in at a certain price without even really informing or discussing. So even just the understanding of it at the baseline level, at the very least, we deserve to be informed about these things, which is why then it gets to a certain point we ask, so this board,
in our current circumstance and the reduction that has come about, is it difficult for farmers to appreciate that this is how to sustain the industry?
It is very difficult because, one, look, if the farmer is a business, we are struggling with the cost of production to maintain whatever we need to do. The issue of galamsey, for example, labor, because of the cost of labor, and especially in the cocoa growing areas, it's a very significant thing. So we have to compete, for example, against the cost of how much they will pay for the people going to the galamsey. So even at the 3,600 and something, we are struggling. Now you come and ram us.
But you know the reality on the market now. Why do you limit it to you come and ram us? Like it's just Cocobod or the government?
No, but then if you're going to do whatever, then do the decrease across board. Why are you targeting we farmers alone? Then do the decrease across board.
It is across board.
Who is
no. When I say across board, in terms of salaries,
it is across board because Nana, you see this issue of consultation. I think there's a good reason why on the board of Cocobod you have
it's a farmers. Two farmers.
Can I respond to that one?
No.
Let him make the point first, then we get your reaction.
Yes, okay. And I'll come to you and I'll respond to that.
You have two farmers.
Yes.
What I realized, and on all the management boards of the subsidiaries and divisions of Cocobod, you have farmers represented.
Yeah.
What I realized upon the assumption of office was that we have a lot of cocoa farmer groups, a lot. And so that then becomes a bit of a problem. You know, I never knew that my friend was a cocoa farmer until I got to Cocobod. And then he sent me his articles and stuff and the movie and all that. I didn't know. In fact, I didn't know that his name had changed. What I knew. So he's one of the foremost psychologists in Ghana. You know, so I didn't know that all those things have changed. But there are a lot of farmer groups. But over the years, there's a particular group that Cocobod has dealt with over the years. That's Cocoshi, the Cocoa, Coffee and Shea Nut Farmers Association. But then I realized that now there are a lot of them. So I have even met about 6 of them in dealing with these issues. I've met about 6 different farmer groups. And so I decide to meet them as and when. Now, the issue that you just raised, you see, sometimes the impression is also created as if Cocobod plays no role.
No, on the contrary.
No, on the contrary. Just a minute. You know, somebody watching might think that, the farmer does everything.
Yeah.
And then Cocobod just goes to sell the thing, takes the money, and gives the farmer. Now, if you start from CRIG, the Cocoa Research Institute, which was set up as a result of this same CSSVD somewhere in 1936. It is Krieg that does all the research, that has been developing all these varieties to be able to withstand the CSSVD and all of that. They do the testing of all the agrochemicals and fertilizer. They go around the country to test the effect of all this all throughout the year. Then you also have the seed production division.
Sorry, you forgot to add that Craig also developed.
Yes.
You forgot to.
So you have a product development unit where people can now you have the seed production division. For all cocoa farmers in Ghana, the seedlings that they plant is provided by Cocobod. So Cocobod will nest maybe 6 million, 7 million of these seedlings, and it's on the basis of the research by Krieg. And this is given to farmers free of charge.
You see, this is where I object to this notion of free, because eventually we pay for it anyway.
No. Okay. When I say free, when I say free, it's within a context.
Yeah, but
let me explain that.
Okay.
I'm just saying that a farmer is not charged before they are given the seedlings. This is given to them. You have extension services that are provided to farmers in all the 74 districts of Ghana. So the Cocoa Health and Extension Division, they do this. A farmer is not charged for the provision of that service. But this is also done. You have a situation of the fertilizer and agrochemicals that is given to farmers. Then you have the issue of the grading and sealing, which is quality. Because for where you sell the cocoa to, they have standards. If you even take the case of Japan, they go the extra mile of testing for heavy metals. So you need to provide all of this before the cocoa is certified and taken. And all this is expense that is made. You look at the warehousing, the shipping, the marketing, and the sale of this cocoa. All of that are done. The haulage of the agrochemicals, the haulage of the cocoa itself, all of this is cost. So it is all of this that is situated in that 30%.
All right.
So it's not as if the 30% is just for Cocobod's salaries.
I would totally agree with you.
Yes.
The point I make is that stop saying these things are free.
All right.
Stop it.
No, I've said that. You see, because when you also were speaking, you also did not allude to all of these things being a cost.
Yes.
Because if you do that, people then
actually mention the coordination that you benefit from that. When I mention coordination, then I mention all the things that come together to make the product ready for the market.
Can I? You people.
It's a universal practice.
No. Can I finish?
You are not going to, when you go to Ivory Coast, they are now leading producers of cocoa. You don't see a situation where the world market price is paid wholesale to a farmer. If you go anywhere, Ecuador, you don't see it. Immediately the state.
Can I say something here?
So Nana, presently, under this circumstance, you are not getting real, are you, when you protest the reduction? That's what
I'm not. We are getting very real. 1, 2. In terms of, and then Dr. Randiabe mentioned very crucial aspects of Cocobod in terms of Craig, in terms of quality control, and I must add in terms of Cocoa Marketing Company, CMC, in terms of the management, external trade, and for me, chaired SPD, I'll tell you very honestly, and again, Cocobod needs to be restructured if we're going to go forward. Look, the average age of the cocoa farmer is 64 years. The average age, and that is a real problem, and we can talk about that in the reforms going forward. Look, at the end of it, those shared and those SPD and those...
I need us, I was hoping that we could terminate on the hour. Because I wish I could do that. I've two other guests who are joining us for the other subjects, but they will also comment briefly about this cocoa matter. So let's now look at the question of the proposed solutions as put forward by the finance minister. And please, let's project the slides on that as well. Automatic producer price adjustment, issue cocoa bonds. I'm not too sure issuing cocoa bonds is going to really work, because as we understand, some banks have suffered, greatly over this. In excess of, is it 2 billion Ghana cedis that has had to be written off, in the previous situation. Clean Cocobod's books, at least 50% of beans to be produced, processed locally. Streamline Cocobod's cost, and then no export remainder of off-season. Randy, explain this to us.
I was just going to say...
explain this to us briefly, and let's now get you into to explain whether you think this is the solution. Then I'll bring in Oliver and Vera briefly to round up this segment, and then return to the next two topics. Yeah.
All right. So something, when we assumed office, we had to analyze what the situation was. When we did the analysis, we realized that, look, if you even do a time series analysis of periods where increases have occurred, you realize that the cocoa farmer has not really benefited. And then you also realize that in periods where we have maintained the prices when it's going down, Cocobod has also made a lot of under-recoveries. And like I used the example of 2025 and 2026 with respect to the exchange rate, where we still kept the price for the farmer. We realized that, look, we immediately need a new pricing model, a new pricing mechanism that will ensure that if the farmer must benefit on the basis of high prices, they benefit. And then we also have a situation where if the prices are not good enough, Cocobod also doesn't rake in debts under the guise of under-recoveries. And the petroleum downstream sector was in this situation many years ago until a decision was taken in 2015 to bring in the deregulation of the prices. And so we believe that we needed a system like that, a new pricing mechanism. Now, when we also looked at the funding model, we realized that, look, if you look at the syndication and you look at this bias funding model, first of all, look at the bias model which we had inherited. We had said, and had granted interviews and said same, that we do not expect this funding model to go beyond 25-26. Because once we extinguish largely the rollover contract, and you also had the prices come down a bit, the buyers will not be motivated. There will be no motivation for them to continue funding your crop. And so we needed a new funding model. Yeah. Now, if you look at the two models, from the syndication to the buyer-funded model, you would realize something interesting. We keep speaking about 560,000 as installed capacity for processing.
Yeah, I need you to be very quick about this rounding up.
Yeah. We speak about processing capacity and all that. But if you have funding models, that ensures that you collateralize your raw beans. Sometimes in the case of 2023-24, you collateralize close to 100% of your raw beans. What is then left for local processing? So you are just talking about processing capacity, but your funding model itself, your financing of the crop itself, does not allow you to be able to provide the beans for processing in Ghana. So you need a funding model that does not require of you to collateralize majority, if not all, of your raw bean to international buyers. And so a new funding model was needed. And that is why the issue of the pricing mechanism, the issue of the funding model came up. Now, to be able to go and this buyers model and the syndication are all foreign banks, external, either buyers or foreign banks. Can we do something domestic? Can we change the narrative? That is possible. If you look at where the economy is going to and the numbers that are coming up, it should be better for this country to be able to, for Cocobod to be able to do that. But you also needed to work on Cocobod's books.
You're right.
Because Cocobod had a negative equity of about 3.9 billion.
And then what does it mean, working on your books?
So if you look at your debt profile, you look at your equity level, the banks will obviously look at your financial position. And that is why we needed to get some decisions taken by cabinet, especially the issue of conversion of the debts of Ministry of Finance, some of the debts of Ministry of Finance and the Bank of Ghana. And also the issue of the cocoa rows. If you take the cocoa rows, for example, and I'm happy Michael is here. Under the IMF program, I heard the former Minister of Finance, Dr. Anta, refer to IMF and IMF. Under the IMF program, Cocobod committed to, because Cocobod had signed cocoa rows from 2014 to 2024 26.5 billion of cocoa rows. In 3 years, 2018, 2019, 19, 20, 2021, Cocobod signed 21.5 billion out of this 26 billion worth of cocoa rows. 3 years, 21.5 billion.
Okay.
Now, Cocobod committed to, in the IMF program, to do what they call a rationalization exercise, to reduce this indebtedness or this commitment from 21.7 billion at the time to 6.9 billion.
Yeah.
I got into office only to find out that for 2 years, Cocobod didn't do it. They didn't do nothing. So it took me to go to the finance minister to get the roads minister for us to sit. Within 6 weeks, we had completed this rationalization exercise to reduce the exposure from 21.7 billion to 4.35 billion. And that is the 4.35 billion that the finance minister requested of cabinet to move from Cocobod's books to the Ministry of Roads and Ministry of Finance, so that the books also look better. So these are some of the practical steps we're doing to clean the books, to be able to let Cocobod, with the backing of government, now go into the market and get these bonds to be able to finance the crop.
So, Michael, in a minute, you, the opposition, actually say you don't really see solutions. You held your press conference before the minister made the announcement, correct? So, do you have a changed position?
No.
Reality check, or you still insist on all the demands you made?
Samson, our position is still the same, because in Ghana, the farmer has always gotten a guaranteed price. So once you came in to announce a price for the farmer and you claim you sold 82% of your cocoa, why can't you give the farmer that price? At least.
But you know the difference between the political talk and the reality.
The best you could have done was to give the farmer the same price till the end of the season. The season will end in October, and now we are in the light.
So what is your proposal? Where do you go for money to take care of what you're talking about?
But where are they getting the money to take care of the 150 million? From the same government. The same government. Cocobod has been supporting the same government in many activities. For instance, the Bui Dam.
That's right.
Okay. Government has been paying money to Cocobod for Bui Dam. So government knows that at every point in time.
What do you mean by the Bui Dam?
Bui Dam, Cocobod uses collateralized cocoa to pay for.
And the Minister of Finance pays Cocobod.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
So what is?
So government pays.
It's like government is buying cocoa from you. What are you doing?
Yeah. Okay. Even
even the road sector alone.
Exactly. A lot of things that Cocobod is doing. Cocobod has done a lot for government. So if government is coming in within this short period, from now to October, to support Cocobod, to support the farmers, then after the new season, the October season, which will be coming, we can then all sit down and say, okay, the prices have dropped. So this is the new situation. But as it stands now, reducing the price from 3,625 to 2,500 is a no-brainer. And you know what is quite interesting is listening to Dr. Randy Abbey and Inusaf, Honorable.
No problem.
I'm flabbergasted because how can you sit here and continue to say, oh, you created a rollover as if it was intentionally created when you know that there was an El Nino effect. Which is a dry spell, and it is because of that El Nino effect that made prices go up. If the El Nino effect had not happened, prices will not go up.
Okay.
When you know, Dr. Randy Abbey sat here and said they use 16 to price 2024. When you know it was 15,
I didn't say
you said they.
Yes.
You said
and the part of your demand and your part of your demand,
even if it was 15.
So you know it was 15.
No, I'm saying.
So why do you use?
Hold on.
Most of the figures you turn out.
Mike, the part of your demand for his removal, the part of your demand for his removal, what's the basis and how does that resolve the problem?
Randy came into office. First of all, he took a decision not to sell for it. Yes.
What is the meaning of it?
You were supposed to give the mandate to.
What is the meaning of it? How did we sell it to 2%?
And then we got into the situation we are.
How did we sell it to 2%?
Apart from that, you come out.
How did we sell
and announce that Cocobod has 50,000 metric tons? The day you announced, prices had dropped to 4,200. The day you announced that Cocobod had 50,000 metric tons unsold cocoa.
But you're not keeping fidelity to the facts.
The market reacted and price dropped to 3,600.
Sale of 24-25.
I'm coming. Prices dropped to 3,600. And the chief executive, the chief scribe of Cocobod, he didn't know that his words could even affect the market. And he was out saying that how can my words affect the price in the for a chief executive, you didn't even know this.
I think it's important for me to address this issue.
In 30 seconds.
Look, the price dropped up to 4,200. What made it?
On the 6th, it dropped to 4,200.
I'm asking you.
Please make your comment rather than ask a comment. Ask a question.
The reduction to 4.2, was it on the basis of the fact that I had said that we had 50,000?
No, the 4.2 was the glut. But then from 4.2 was you.
Something.
I'm coming to you.
Something.
Oliver and then
something. I think that it's important that Michael looks in the face of the Ghanaian people and explain to them how come Cocobod awarded 21.5 billion cedis worth of contracts in 3 years when there was no budgetary allocation for that one. 2, he should look
you give me the opportunity.
He should look at Nana here and the farmers there and explain to them how come they were importing juice sacks. They were not clearing the juice sacks at the port. They kept importing to the extent that when they had not cleared over 100,000 bales of juice sacks for 2 years, in 2024, they placed an order for another 80,000 bills, and on the 3rd of December, issued an irrevocable letter of credit for $48 million. He should explain to us why they did that.
Okay. Give me the opportunity. We have heard this over and again.
Yes.
Okay, another 30 seconds to you.
No, 30 seconds cannot respond.
No, I'm sorry, but I have to move on. Otherwise, it will be an unending cycle. I can't do that. I can't do that. Yeah.
30 seconds cannot.
Please go ahead.
Samson, juice sacks is a plant. Jute is a plant. It's called kenaf. You plant it. It takes about 3 months to mature, and then you have to process. Even the shipment alone will take about 12 to 14 months before it gets in, because they will not ship all in bulk. They ship it in batches. So over the years, from 20 years in Cocobod, if you go to Cocobod, the history is there. They will tell you that they purchase juice sacks every in advance, 2 years in advance. That's what they do.
Yes.
So that they can prepare in purchasing it. What happened in 2022, there was an Exemption Act that was repealed. When the Exemption Act was repealed, Cocobod had already purchased juice sacks. The juice sacks came in for 2023. Cocobod was negotiating with the Ministry of Finance to give exemption. Whilst negotiating, Ministry of Finance had not given that exemption. So Cocobod, when they get money, they go and clear some of the juice sacks, and then whilst leaving some there. But then that is not to say you need to have forecast. You are not cleared. So you ordered the next one.
Thank you, Michael.
In case they give you exemption,
you are not cleared. You ordered. You are not cleared. You ordered for 3 consecutive years.
Did they leave all the juice sacks?
Over 100,000.
And if you like, don't clear for 2027.
Thank you.
Since you are claiming, that there's enough juice sacks, don't order for 2027.
Michael, thank you.
And let's see what will happen.
Michael, thank you.
Don't order. So I'm challenging you. Don't order.
No, it's okay.
Thank you very much. Nana, it feels like Michael should have been working at Cocobod.
You see, a quick disclaimer.
Except that it would have been said that
he was working there.
Family,
He was working there.
I never even stepped foot there.
His dad was the boss. His dad was the boss. So
he was getting contracts. He was getting contracts.
Yes. What's your solution?
He was getting contracts. Quick.
Never.
Thank you. What's your solution, Nana?
Quick disclaimer.
Maybe you are doing it now.
Quick disclaimer.
Nana, what's your solution?
Quick disclaimer. Cocoa is a business. I'm a farmer.
Yes.
And an entrepreneur. As long as we continue politicizing our cocoa, we will have this challenge. It just responds to some of the solutions that have been advocated. Honorable former minister said that Cocobod is a trading institution. I want to ask the question: is Cocobod a regulator? Is Cocobod a trading institution? Is Cocobod a price competitor? Is Cocobod a price setter? What is Cocobod?
Your solution?
One of the solutions is that we should really scale down Cocobod and redefine exactly what they do. And I would prefer that they stay as a regulator.
Scale it down. What's that? What are the numbers there?
Exactly.
And how
I think that
how much does salaries affect what you are doing?
I think that the IMF has, and in the World Bank have actually pointed out some of these things. They should actually focus on delivering them.
All right.
Another important aspect is value addition, because of course, if you are producing a crop, you have to be able to utilize it yourself to add value to them. So value addition
there's a talk about 50% processing. But how much of that processing is really done by local Ghanaian companies? Very little. If anything, we are locked into foreign issues, etc. Plus, number 4, very important.
So we are projecting Ohene cocoa.
Yes, number 4.
The fine stuff.
Yes, we do a number of. I mean, producing stuff from cocoa is actually fairly simple, especially if you don't go down the expensive.
So what is this? Tell me about
this one is a joint concept with cocoa wine by Volta Winery and Ohene cocoa.
So this is cocoa.
This is a cocoa wine.
Cocoa wine.
Yes, we have energy bars, we have a husk tea, etc. We have sweetened nips, etc.
Okay.
But I'll speak to my brother Randy about that. I think the last important point I wanted to make was that we should really look at this free zones concept, especially in relation to cocoa, because it is completely anti-competitive and it destroys the local industry concept.
All right. Yes.
So first of all, I think that the reforms are well intended. Even the pricing at the initial stages was a statement of intent that, look, with conditions remaining constant, this was what we were going to pay to farmers. But clearly, things have changed, and so we require a new, outlook. We require a new performance criteria. We require to deal with matters differently. The reforms come in three or four sectors. It tackles structural inefficiencies. And there are a lot of structural inefficiencies in the Cocobod. And so if you are able to tackle those structural inefficiencies, you should be able to put Cocobod on a sound financial footing. Now, we also look at the financial management. There are a lot of monies that are going into areas that clearly are not tangential to the work of Cocobod. And so you need to look at that and scale it down. And that's what the reforms are talking about. And also, like Nana has said, when farmers, I'm also a farmer, but I'm into grains. I mean, when farmers sell to government, what they need is their money. That's all. I mean, if you don't give them their money, I mean, it reduces, it saps them. That's why it's not little wonder that the average age of a farmer is 64, because the youth will not see any attractiveness.
The new funding model, new pricing model will fix this.
Good.
Forever.
Good.
Fix this.
And the overall is to bring some level of confidence in sector governance. Impunity must stop. I mean, people must be held accountable.
Okay.
For their
especially the boards, the past boards, including the farmer members.
They must be held accountable, because
including the farmer members
accountable, impunity will continue to thrive. Look, I tell you, I was the chairman, ranking member of the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee. Cocobod, when it was established as a trading company. Why? We did that because we needed a foreign exchange. And so we had to aggregate the cocoa, sell, get the foreign exchange. When the Akufo-Addo came, the first act was to do what? To move Cocobod from Minister of Finance to Minister of Agriculture.
I must add that Cocobod must also...
So I will do this, and then I'll take a quick break, return, we'll hear from Oliver on these matters as well, and then we'll proceed on the next subjects that we have to deal with. But Valentine certainly is here again, and Hefsi's Gifts has sorted you out. They have you completely sorted out. For all your luxury and affordable gifts this Valentine, contact Hefsi's Gifts on 055 554. I'll take that number again, 055 594 0022. I'll take it for the last time. Contact Hefsi's Gifts on this number, 0555 94 0022 to place your orders. Hefsi's has available red roses, fresh flowers, luxury hampers, chocolates, cupcake, and candle bouquets, spa sets, and so much more. You can locate Hefsi's behind American House, East Legon, Accra. Follow them on Instagram at Hefsi's and call or WhatsApp to the number I just shared with you, 0555 94 0022 to place your orders now. Hefsi's, all you need to make your Valentine truly special. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, as always, we put Ghana first. I have your tons of messages. I'll be sharing them with the rest of the world. This show is brought to you by Bank of Africa, as strong as a group and close as a partner. MTN everywhere you go. Ashesi University, educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa. Robert & Sons Optical Services, your comprehensive eye care service provider for 33 plus years. My Way Insurance, dial *165# on MTN to join My Way today. Syntex Tanks is strong, it's tough, and Safari Valley Eco Park, bringing you closer to nature. Goldboard Jewelry, pure, precious, proudly Ghanaian, core natural juice, 100% cocoa fruit juice. Melcom, your #1 shopping destination, and Waylead, your trusted home builder, as well as Bethel Dental. The smile starts right there at Bethel Dental. Thank you very much. And it's Valentine, so make someone, put a smile on someone's face, make them feel good. You can actually get Habil's Couture for them to do a good design, you know, of kaftan or any outfit you want for your loved one. You can call them 0200 84 1988. Habil's Couture, 0200 84 1988. If you also checked on social media, you could follow them through Instagram and the rest to get to them. Thank you very much. If you don't get anything at all, just get some chocolate. Not the just is good. The Ohini Cocoa, their wines, they are also looking really good. So get some of that. Israelite just got us some chocolate a while ago, and we've all been eating nice Ghana chocolate. Thank you very much. Now, my other guests have joined us on this segment. Right here, joining us for the second part of the discussion. We want to go to the Ayawaso East to understand what exactly has gone on there. So joining us now is Abna Ado, who is Programs Officer, CDD Ghana, Elections, Rule of Law, and Anti-Corruption. Shortly, I'll bring on Oliver Bakavomo, Constitutional Rights and Policy Strategy Advisor, Democracy Hub, to also speak to us. And he will make a quick reaction to something that happened last week as well, because his name was mentioned a number of times about a certain situation by Pollard Mortuary. So he'll give us a brief reaction to that as well. Now, let me hear Oliver say something briefly about the cocoa situation. Oliver, thanks for making time to join us. Hi, Oliver.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very clear. Thanks for your patience. You and Abna, thank you so very much for being so patient with us for upwards of almost 2 hours.
Yeah, I was just saying that this is an issue that could have taken the entire show, to be honest. There's a lot still left that is yet unsaid on the issue.
That's
right. But I just, my interventions will be brief towards the responses that we are designing here, and perhaps around the finance instrument, the governance, perhaps the policy cost, and also international trading issues. So first of all, much like Goldboard perhaps, the Cocobod was not designed to be a profit-making entity. It was never a profit-trading company. From the beginning of its setup, it was more like a stabilization instrument on a, in an economy, a colonial economy that depended on one export crop to finance its forex needs. So that structure has continued in many ways. Even if you look at our top forex earners, cocoa is still in the top 5 of that till now. But compounded with that is the fact that Cocobod is performing all these national functions at the same time. He has to pay farmers a good price. He has to bring in the forest to support the city, finance inputs, roads, social programs in all the cocoa growing areas. Then you still use it in a sovereign borrowing arrangements continuously. So going forward, we need to be able to assess the reforms that are being talked about, whether or not they do all of these things. One, the finance minister has spoken about the debt part. So there's still going to be continuous debt accumulation. If the decision is that going forward, the approach is that a lot of the debt that was on Cocobod's books will continuously now be shifted to central government, then perhaps that gives an indication of maybe that's how we want to do it going forward. On the governance issue, the administrative overheads is still a problem that has always dogged Cocobod. And hopefully the new law that they're talking about limits how much they can, because you can't continue to borrow and spend that administratively. So if the law is going to set maybe 10% or whatever percentage, it's something we need to deal with. The contractual overcommitment, as we're talking about in this, over 27 billion in cocoa roads, you're overcommitting the entity in terms which you cannot adequately pay for, and that's something we need to discuss and think about. Then there's the policy costs, which I don't know whether we haven't sufficiently dealt with, like these issues about the Cocoa Research Institute, these issues about the Cocoa Roads Institute, all the other ancillary things that Cocobod is doing, whether it continues to do that on its own books or the government takes that, that's also something that we need to deal with long term, which I don't think has been sufficiently dealt with. But perhaps the bigger part of the issue, we must understand that we are still an economy that is dependent on the global market. So that the market volatility is a huge part of what we are not able to control. So the buyers continue to control, speculation is half of the problem. This is what the Ghana Cote d'Ivoire Cocoa Initiative was supposed to solve. That we're trying to create like an OPEC-like infrastructure to have more control. And how much of that we have been able to do needs to be assessed, and our ability to coordinate with Cote d'Ivoire and other cocoa producers to have better control of the market would serve us long term. If not, we'll continue to be reactive to the volatility issues. Then, of course, the value addition part that the minister is talking about. Now, a huge part of the cocoa value chain, of course, is on the value addition end and not on the farming or where we are the raw material end of the spectrum. We are saying that we're going to now limit by law 50% of what we produce for domestic value addition. Now, it's whether or not we're going to engineer that economy to now come out of thin air or how much we're going to invest in that for us to be able to carry it, knowing that we're going to be competing against long-term brands that have existed over hundreds of years. A lot of them are even starting to pivot to cocoa substitutes. And so our ability to then market after we have produced, and whether or not that can even fetch us or be able to enter into that value chain is part of the things that I think holistically needs to be addressed. I'll just leave that for now.
Do you see an injustice being done to the cocoa farmers? Because that's how they feel, that like we complain in this country with fuel prices, for the longest time, we're not benefiting from the windfalls.
So, Nigeria took a different approach as we were in terms of local production. At the time the initial Cocobod or the Cocoa Marketing Board was created, our production was almost the same with Nigeria somewhat. They decided to completely liberalize, that the farmers were going to do their own thing with the buyers. It destroyed the Nigerian cocoa industry. So there has to be some element of government intervention there. But how much value we're able to give farmers is dependent on how much responsibility we move away from Cocobod and the expenditures it makes, so that farmers can get better value. When Nana was there, he talked about how farmers were burning the beans because the buyers were not giving them enough value for it. That was when government was not intervening in the market. That the buyers were taking serious advantage of the planters. So there's still a need for government intervention, but the scope of what Cocobod is carrying is not allowing them to give sufficient value to farmers, is what I would say.
Right. Thank you very much. I don't know if Abina wants to make a comment about this.
Yes, I want to. My mom is a cocoa farmer.
Yes, you said this before, right?
She already lost one cocoa farm to Galamsey, and she's left with another one. We are not sure the fate of that.
Oh, no.
Yes,
I remember you talking about this when we were discussing Galamsey. So for them, this is a disincentive, but there's a reality they also need to appreciate.
Surprisingly, and my grandmother is also a cocoa farmer. When I spoke to them yesterday, I wanted to interrogate and find out if they really understand the situation. It looks like they understand what is happening. They are not happy, but they understand the situation, which I think is, I don't know how the Cocobod and the team have been able to communicate for the farmers to really understand the issue, but they are not happy, which I thought, well, that's quite commendable. From governance perspective, from the briefing the minister did, realize that Cocobod is spending way beyond their mandate their core function. And this is where I think we need some oversight in the things of Cocobod. We shouldn't just allow state institutions to do what they are doing. And it comes in with this, our own state enterprises. I think we've had many concerns. CDD has done a lot of work around state enterprises and how we manage our state enterprises. And so for me, I like it when the minister said there will be forensic audit. The forensic audit means that we are moving from it's not just a policy failure, it means that there might be some wrongdoing. And we are interested, we want to follow through to see what is going to happen from that. And if there are any wrongdoing, not just, I think we called on the Attorney General. I think if it's issue about procurement and others, OSP should come in, Yoko and team, I think there should be a real forensic audit into the whole activities. And let's look at how we manage our state enterprises. I think for over the years, government keep pumping money, and it's our money, taxpayers. At the end of the day, how to bear the cost of all this, and so it's something
they make losses. They
make losses. You should look at the report.
Yeah, I remember how Ken Furata got a bit hard on them, but unfortunately, some of the things he spoke about that they needed to do to reform them didn't appear to happen. SIGA was introduced to try and coordinate them properly. I don't know how much of that.
We are working with SIGA now.
For 3 years now, Cocobod has not filed audited statement of accounts. For 3 years.
That's on partner.
SIGA. Yes. So you see, these are things that
SIGA is supposed to be
whipping them to do that.
Yeah.
We are working with SIGA to look at some scorecard for state enterprises. And so we've met them a few times to look at, we are designing how the metrics and all the indicators that we need to use. And usually it is the farmers that suffer, and most of the time that's...
Let's close this chapter listening to the finance minister on this subject, and then I'll share your messages with you.
An announcement as you recall, that I made an announcement in the 2026 budget that government of Ghana has secured a $500 million World Bank facility to construct agricultural roads, including cocoa roads. This particular intervention will take over the construction of cocoa roads going forward. To ensure accountability and transparency in the management of Cocobod and the cocoa sector as a whole, Cabinet also directed the Attorney General to commission concurrent forensic audit and criminal investigation into the activities of Cocobod over the last 8 years. And I repeat, Cabinet also directed the Office of the Attorney General to commission concurrent forensic audit and criminal investigation into the activities of Cocobod over the last 8 years. Cabinet has directed the Ministry of Finance to initiate also immediate reforms at Cocobod to streamline their operations and cut costs. Wasteful and uncontrolled expenditure practices are to be curtailed immediately.
Right. Much. And now some of the messages that you have sent in, it's only fair that we share them with the rest of the world. Kweku wants to know, is Miracles Abuaji also a farmer? He showed up at Ghana Water Treatment Plant last year. Where was he during the 8 years under President Akufo-Addo? That's your question. This question says that value addition is the cure to all of these. Revamp cocoa processing company to add value for export. That's from Abraham. He says a processed beans cost 5 times the cost of raw beans. Mike, is that the case? Processed beans cost 5 times the cost of raw beans.
Oh, maybe the person is trying to say the profit from processed beans.
Right. Okay.
Okay. How much is food?
That's universally accepted. That when you process,
you get about 5 times.
All right.
What is good?
And the question about going into the bond market. This other person says that during the DDEP, there were investments that were converted into bonds, and Cocobod has defaulted on repaying these bonds, effectively suffocating the banks involved. And still, they say they want to return to the bond market. The question to ask is, who will buy these bonds? When they are already indebted to banks to the tune of over $2 billion, which the banks have all impaired, thereby disallowing the banks to pay dividends to their shareholders as a result of that. Okay, so the situation goes beyond just the farmer, but the shareholders of banks that invested in the cocoa bills. So let's also look at that situation. That's from one of our viewers. Nana Siojuri says, in as much as cocoa farmer has today received haircut from the John Mahama government, why has the CEO and deputies also not received salary reduction? In the media tour by the CEO Randiabe with media soiree for some selected journalists, he talks of debt accrued, yet he bought... okay, I cannot confirm the things you are saying. This allegation that you are bringing up with figures and particular items, I will not be able to share that with the public. Thank you very much, Nana Hesi Ojuri. I don't know them for a fact, and he's not here to be able to respond to them. Is the reason I won't share them. Then this is from Alfred Kumi, Adenta Kumi. He says, okay, that's when someone is talking, please allow them to talk rather than making interjections. But Adenta Kumi, you are very familiar with this. A bit of that is okay, it's allowed. Prince Henry Koforidia says, the initiative taken by the NDC government to help solve the problem of cocoa farmers will go a very long way to help our cocoa farmers and Ghana at large. The cocoa farmers are happy with the initiative taken by the current government. Really, for the nano minority, they should continue doing politics with everything, and this will keep them from keep them in opposition for a very long time. All right, thanks for that view you just shared. And a cocoa farmer actually sending me a message from his cocoa farm. Mr. Dubois says that my poor cocoa caretaker returned to a poor, a poor man's retirement for him. And he says that the structure of Cocobod is no longer tenable. The colonial government did better than we are doing. Cocobod, as it stands now, is not fit for purpose. My grandfather was a cocoa millionaire. Most of the mansions in Ashanti, Western, Eastern regions were built from cocoa. The only way is to liberalize the industry, like Indonesia, and Cocobod should be downsized to research institutes. People have cut down their cocoa farms in Agogo and planted plantain, which they are sold for cash, not credit. Okay, he's got a lot more to say, but he's got a long message. I'll end it there. Okay. Okay, that's fine. This one says that it's from Master Planner Junior, Policy Analyst Kintampo, and he says a great education by Honorable Michael Edu. In 2016, the world market price of cocoa was around 3,000 per metric ton, but it reduced by 40% in 2017, which was sold around 2,000 per metric ton. Regardless of this reduction in 2017, President Nana Akufo-Addo maintained the prices for the Ghanaian cocoa farmers. This is prudent management of cocoa sector. It's clear that this government is clueless and heartless. The cocoa farmer deserves better. So pay attention. I'll read just about two more. You can see I'm trying to read as many of your messages as well because you complain about that. Anderson Jr. says that, does Cocobod have a dedicated research and business development unit? What were its market research findings during the period under review? Were any reports submitted to the board recommending early interventions? Furthermore, with the growing number of cocoa producing competitors globally, does Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire have a formal bilateral arrangement on cocoa pricing and joint marketing? As neighboring countries and leading producers, it may be timely to deepen economic cooperation in the cocoa sector to strengthen pricing power and curb cross-border smuggling smuggling.
That has been done.
That has been done.
Yes, that's the Ghana Recruit Cocoa Initiative.
Right, and a very significant person sensing this one, in leadership, but currently not in leadership, says that I wish to make an appeal through your respected program for government to reconsider the reduction in cocoa producer price for the following reasons. Cocoa was set up Cocobod, I think you mean, was set up specifically to protect the unsophisticated cocoa farmer from the vicissitudes of world market. Passing on reduction in world market prices defeats the whole purpose of Cocobod. In good years, Cocobod was required to set funds aside to support the prices paid to farmers in adverse years, or adverse years, you meant. The workers of Cocobod who depend on the produce of the farmer are not getting a reduction in salaries. Cocoa farmers are among the poorest in our country. Few in any cocoa farmers earn the annual salary of even the lowest paid workers in Cocobod. Cocoa farmers are among the most taxed in our country, earning 70% of their produce price over the years. If cocoa farmers had a proper trade union, nobody could dare touch their income. Their lack of effective unionization should not work against them. For the above reasons, we should allow them, we should not be taxing them as we are doing. All right, so thank you very much for your messages. Okay, so some messages have been put on my production platform, but my WhatsApp is freezing. Now, let's hear what happened in Ayawaso East.